Hi guys, you're back with me today, Shea Damonze, certified addiction and trauma professional, also managing director of Integrate Evolve Tanzania. Our topic today will be on sex addiction. So what sex addiction is something which we also call hypersexuality. It's a compulsive sexual disorder where people find themselves preoccupied and either obsessed or compelled around sexual behaviors or engaging in sexual thoughts, fantasies, behaviors which lead to high-risk situations or lifelong consequences as a result of this illness. So if we're looking at the most common behaviors around sex addiction, we have various aspects, right? So if we're looking at masturbation, if we're looking at multiple sexual partners engaging in sex, engaging in pornography or any pornography material, whether it be through the internet, online, through books, magazines. We're also looking at voyeurism, exhibitionism. Voyeurism is very much around people getting off watching other people having sex, and 99% of the time we find those that find themselves as voyeurists, they are normally the ones who are engaging in porn. The most common behaviors around sex addiction, I would say, is pornography, masturbation, engaging in unprotected sex with multiple partners, infidelity, prostitution, voyeurism, exhibitionism. These are all part of the characteristics which make up sex addiction, or the behaviors that are linked with sex addiction. Okay, so many people who I've come across have asked me the question, does sex addiction really exist? So again, with any type of addiction, if someone finds themselves wanting to control what they're doing, already there's a red flag or an alarm bell that goes off, right? If someone finds themselves preoccupied, engaging in a certain behavior or an act. So for example, if we're looking at a sex addict who's spending multiple hours of time behind a screen watching porn, this is detrimental, right, to that person's health and well-being. Because if we take it one step further, if we look at the amount of time spent around watching pornography, my question is always, how much time is spent engaging in social activities, exercise, hobbies, and various other things that people would do if they were not watching porn? So we're looking at people acting out on these behaviors in excess. So basically, really going out and finding themselves not being able to control or stop the behavior. So masturbation, I wouldn't say it's a large part of sex addiction, but it is one of the very well-known characteristics which are linked with sex addiction, right? If you think about what masturbation really is, it's a way of self-soothing yourself, right? It's a way of, it's when someone is aroused by either certain content around them or visual stimulation, someone's body gets aroused, right? And the way to release that or to act out on that would be through touching one's own genitals, and this is what we call masturbation. So there's very much a link. Statistically, it's been proven that masturbation is more common amongst men than women. I think just due to the lack of shame around the entire topic, sex, masturbation. I think personally I've worked with many clients where women seem to have found themselves with this very problem. So I think for a large part of society has kind of made it out that it's only men that masturbate. But working in this field, we've encountered more and more females who are presenting these issues and these problems. So yeah, I would say that if you had to look at numbers, there are more men engaging in masturbation. However, the amount of females that we are coming across now, the numbers are definitely on the rise. So masturbation, well, let's talk about sex in general first. I think the topic alone, when talking about sex, it varies from culture to culture. I think globally there's a stigma that goes about it, or around the discussion of sex. So when talking about masturbation, now we're taking it one step further. There's a lot of people where I've questioned and I've interviewed and worked with, and when talking to them about masturbation, it was like a no-go area. And this was either due to their upbringing, religious beliefs, or their cultural beliefs. So I think very much there is a huge stigma that goes around masturbation. And aside from the stigma, I think there's a lot of shame, so people don't speak up or speak openly and freely about it. I think parents as well kind of tend to shy away from the topic when it comes to sex and masturbation. So the risks involved with sex addiction, if we go back to one of the previous questions, right, what is sex addiction? It's that inability where the person finds himself engaging in a behavior which is self-destructive, and also behaviors where they are not able to control or stop themselves. So a lot of the times we look at sex addiction like any other addiction, it's progressive, right? So we're also looking at the endorphins that gets released with every high. So the same with drugs or alcohol. Somebody gets a high, endorphins are released. When somebody watches porn, endorphins get released, right? So once someone starts engaging in the sexual activities, they start getting a high. But with addiction being progressive, our tolerance builds up. So which means that if one porn video that I've watched, my dopamine level shot up to 100%, I need something more now. I need something more exciting. So when we're looking at the risks, a lot of people who are engaging in these behaviors have started out maybe watching certain types of porn or engaging in certain behaviors, and then finding themselves progressing through their addiction to prostitution, engaging in unprotected sex. So we're looking at people with various forms of sexually transmitted diseases, HIV and AIDS. We're also looking at people who get involved in criminal or sexual offenses due to their sex addiction. So I think that the consequences around sex addiction is really, it's very serious. And many people would think that it's just about sex, when sex addiction is not really just about the actual act, it's about the various other forms of behaviors and compulsions and the impulsiveness to want to act out and get the instant gratification. As which with any other drug, that is what drives the addiction, is that motivation to get that high. So I definitely believe that masturbation has an impact on romantic and physical relationships. This is something that we can kind of debate for days or weeks on end. On the one hand, we look at mutual masturbation between couples, where the actual act of masturbation is healthy, it's mutual between both partners. But once one of them or both of them tend to drift off and find more satisfaction, or the arousal template either becomes warped by watching pornography. In most cases, when this happens, we find out that either one of the partners do not find the other one as attractive. So again, it's like crossing the next level, taking it one step further. So again, with the increase of dopamine, there's always this chase and this need for more and to get higher. And when we're talking about getting high, the high that we get with engaging in sexual activity is no different to when someone is shooting up heroin or smoking crack or having a drink of alcohol. So again, the dopamine just skyrockets, it shoots through the roof. And if we're looking at the impact masturbation has on relationships, if we take it one step further, we're also looking at men who suffer from erectile dysfunction as a result of compulsive porn watching, and then not finding their partners as attractive because the brain has been rewired now in a different way. And that is what pornography does. It rewires our brains. So what would usually turn someone on, they're now looking for something a bit more either hardcore, or they need to be stimulated in a different way compared to when they were first acting out or engaging in sexual activity. So I definitely believe that there's a link between masturbation and pornography. If we find someone engaging in visual stimulation such as pornographic material, what happens to one's body is, as human beings, we become aroused based on the content, right? So when being aroused, there is a need to, or a desire to want to release. So if you think about someone who is diabetic and not supposed to have sugar, for example, and you place a chocolate bar in front of them, right? There's a desire, there's a need to want to act out and have that chocolate bar. So even though they know that there might be consequences to it, but the desire and the urge is so strong to want to have it. So if I was diabetic and someone placed a chocolate bar, I would want to eat it. If I was watching porn and I was being aroused, chances are I would want to touch myself and engage in masturbation, because that is a form of release. So as the dopamine releases and our arousal becomes higher and it increases, there's a need to want to release or self-soothe or act out on the visual that we've been watching. So definitely there's a link between porn and masturbation. I think it's very rare that you would find someone watching porn and not masturbating. Okay, so if there are people who find themselves either engaging in these behaviors or questioning their sexual behavior, their obsessive thoughts around sex, how much time is spent around engaging in sexual activity, I think if someone is able to identify that within themselves, I would suggest going out and really seeking help with various healthcare professionals, psychologists, psychiatrists, physicians. As Evolve, this is what we do. We focus on addiction and various forms of addiction. So if anyone does question themselves around this, or if anyone after maybe watching this question themselves and ask them, do I maybe have a problem, or am I either able to relate to something which has been brought up or discussed today, then I would definitely recommend and firmly suggest that they do go out and explore and go and speak to someone, a healthcare professional, someone that works in mental health, someone who's equipped to be able to help and assist that person with their problem. So thanks everyone. My name is Shea Damonze. Stay tuned for our next video as we continue our series on addiction.